United Devil channel with me, JB. I hope we're all doing extremely well. It's Monday, the 29th of December. Christmas is but a distant memory in our heads. On to the new year. So look, I hope we've all got things planned. Hope you all had a good Christmas. I'm probably going to have to stop asking that at some point in time. But look, it's still December. To me, it's still Christmas until the 1st of next month, really. So look, it's still time to celebrate all that sort of stuff. So look, guys, I hope we're all doing extremely well. Please get into this chat. Please get into this amazing community. I always say this: we may not be the biggest, we're not the smallest, but we certainly are the best. Be respectful to this community. If you do, it's a really great community to be part of. Be respectful to them. Be respectful to yourselves. Be respectful to me. Otherwise, the ban hammer comes out. You will get banned. We don't like to do it. Now, banter is absolutely fine. You don't even have to support the club. Oh God, my glasses are disgusting. You don't even have to support the club. Look, just get in there with your comments. Most comments about different clubs. Look, I don't mind being in there, but that's probably more of an evening show. We're going to go through some stuff today. Second things to say is I'm not a dictator of this chat. It isn't my opinion, and that's it. I'm exactly the same as you. I have my view. I have my opinion. Doesn't mean that I'm right. Doesn't mean that I'm wrong. I just have my view. And this is a channel for you really to get your opinions in and out there. I do give you that time. I do read your comments. That's why these shows take so long, because I do give you a platform to have your opinion. And if I do come back on an opinion, it's not because I'm disrespecting that opinion. All it basically is you just added to that debate, and we're just having that conversation. Now, before I start, the first thing I need to do before I start is what my specs, because I should have done that before the show's done. So look, let me know where you are watching from. Let me know which part of the world you are watching from. Let me know how your Christmas was. Let me know if you watched the conference today. I've got some big opinions on that. I think Amorin, I think, look, as much as I want the manager to stay, I am Amorin in, and have been. I probably prefix this with I am manager in. If Amorin does go, I think that's sort of the wrong way to do it. But I by no means let Amorin get away with it. And today, the disillusional, I think, opinion of him right now and where he thinks the squad is, where he thinks his club is. I'm finding the conferences right now. The last one he did, I thought was good. This conference for me, I think is a little bit same old. Again, he clearly, and one of the things that I will say, is coming to my mind, is the way how he speaks about Bruno Fernandez to me is embarrassing. I find the way that he talks about a player is almost like the manager is in awe of a player, and that disturbs me. One of the things that I have said for the longest time is I think Amorin is very naive in certain respects. I do find Amorin sometimes out of his depth, and today, I look, people interpret, and people are going to interpret things that people say in whatever way that they do. Amorin almost he gushes over his cap. Now I'm going to say that towards the end of the conference, because that is basically the end of the conference. But I actually find it quite embarrassing. We've got a manager who literally is gushing over a player. His captain, clearly, look, this guy's never going to be dropped, and I just find it very, very uncomfortable. But we will go through that as well. Any transfer bits you want to bring in, I'm going to bring a little bit on the Gallagher stuff as well, which I find fascinating. That will tell you exactly what the Glazers are, which will tell you exactly what this club is and what the danger is. So we will get through all that stuff, and again, just give me your opinions and let me know what you think. So first thing to say, Gallagher stuff. Now, I've been of this opinion that I've been saying this for the longest time, and it could be a case of now that I'm wrong. So I've been saying this whole way through. Terry says, "Afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Terry. Hope you're doing extremely well this 29th, Monday 29th. So let's see what happened throughout the day. So one of the things I wanted to say first is a bit of an update for you. So the Gallagher stuff. Now, going by on history and the things that we've done. Now, I'm of the opinion, and I still will be of this opinion until Ineos and the Glazers change it. We will not do anything in this window, and in my humble view, unless it's a Gallagher on loan. Now, the caveat to that is this today has been coming out, is that United actually do not want to pay. They want to get him on loan. Now, this is what I've been saying. That is Gallagher for me on loan or zero. The Xerxes stuff may change that. We do know that they apparently have money, the difference between the loss and PSR. And also the 60 million that they plucked out their arse for the Baleba stuff. So apparently there is cash there. Now, the baffling thing to me is the reports are coming out that United do not want to pay for him. Atletico want money, so I think it's around 25-30 million pounds. Now, I understand to some people that is probably not the most glamorous of signings, right? It's not the first choice, okay? But I think what people miss, and I think this is really important. Jane says, hi, hello Jane, I hope you're doing extremely well. Mr. Yudi, hello from Jakarta, Indonesia. One of the things I think is really important to acknowledge, I think that people miss, is that how are we doing? Well, we just about won the last game, so hopefully we will win again tomorrow night. But I will get on to you, Ian, as well. One of the things that people miss, people want these glamorous first team signings. But what we need, and I think this is probably one of the fundamental things that we need, is if you want to put the cherry on top of a cake and you don't have a cake, what's the point? Gallagher, Neves, for me, are the building blocks of a team. These are the players that we need to get. And look, we do need these world-class first team stars. But we also need the Gallaghers, the Neves. Those players instantaneously improve us. Now, I'm not just talking about those two players. I am talking about players that we need to build our squad. And we need to build our squad. And the fact that United are unwilling, or appear to be, to put a hand in their pocket and spend cash. Now, look, we don't have to spend it all in one go. I'm sure we could do a deal over 2 or 3 seasons. But United seemingly do not want to pay the money. It baffles me. You know, you could do Neves 15 million, this for 25 to 30, and you're getting 2 quality Premier League players at good ages to fill out your squad for 45 million. United do not seem to want to do it. So look, where I'm at, I'm not going to go into the Baleba stuff again. We did that. Again, Ornstein, Fabrizio, I've spoken about that. I think those guys need to stop with this whole Anderson, Fabrizio, Anderson, Steeler. You know, look, it doesn't matter. What is really important to me right now is that we need a squad. We need signings. So look, the Gallagher stuff. If I'll be puzzled if we don't go for that sort of player now. I'll be very puzzled as to what Amorin and what this club is trying to do. I'm of the belief that we will only try to sign a loan player. And that's it. I've been beating that drum for weeks. I've always believed we won't do anything in this window. There's no value in the market and we get a loan. Now with the Gallagher stuff, if Atletico don't budge, I'm lost. So look, let's just keep an eye on that. I will give you an update on that. But look, as it stands, the Gallagher signing that people don't want, the one that I think Gallagher is probably going to be the signing that people don't realise he's the one that we probably need in terms of value to price. So we'll see on that one. So let me get through some of the chats before I go on to the press conference. Jane says, English says, I'm a Liverpool fan. What do you think of what Mainoo's brother did? He's been wasted, in my opinion. I'll give you my opinion as well, because I think we might as well talk about that as well. Is that look, you can look at this one of two ways. I'm one of three boys, right? And they've done stuff in the past, not necessarily about me, but they can do stuff, right? Doesn't mean that it's anything to do with you. Now, I don't know the family connection in terms of, I don't know like how they are together, but just because your brother does something doesn't mean to say that you know about that. You don't know in this world of social media, in this world where people will try to make money off of your name, and that does include siblings, family, uncles. Doesn't mean to say that Kobie Mainoo was aware of this. To caveat that, doesn't mean to say that he was or wasn't aware of it. So look, nobody's going to know. I don't necessarily think, Amorin, to be fair to him, in the press conference that he did just after the game, I thought he handled it extremely well, and I do think he made some good points. Now, I basically had the opinion when I was away that how could Kobie Mainoo not know? But looking at it, going back and thinking about it again, how can you punish somebody for something that someone else did? So look, whether Kobie Mainoo did know or not, we are not going to know. And you can't punish somebody on something that may or may not be true. So look, I'm not a fan of it. If I was the club, he would be banned from games. I think somebody has to pay a price. And if that is the disrespect that people or players, family show for this club, then guess what? You're getting banned. So, look, Kobie Mainoo, it's easy to point fingers, but I think unless we are in full facts of the truth, he can't be blamed for that. James says City have won every game. Yes, they have. Our next game is Wolves tomorrow night. Caleb says hello. The cause of infection says I just got stabbed and now I think I'm going to die. Okay, lovely. Tom DLC, legend of the chat. Hey man, I hope you're doing well, Tom. I am, my friend, and hope you are too. So look, I wanted to get into the press conference because I think it was quite an interesting one for me. Now, my thumbnail, and look, my thumbnails are not for clickbait. I put on there what I see and what I think. Amorin, I think, is coming to a point whereby what I see, and I have my opinions, you guys have yours, but from my opinion, what I'm starting to hear from him is the same stuff over and over again. Now, I think he's taken it to a new dimension today. I should tell you for why. So I am concerned, but we will see. So look, I've got it word for word. So look, we're going to go through it. Give me your comments along the way. Tell me what you think. I'll give you my opinion on it as well. Harish says, is United getting top 10? Is United getting top 10 an acceptable season? Harith, that's really easy for me to answer. Okay. Is it acceptable for us to finish outside the top 3? No. I demand we win the Premier League every single season. I demand we get into the Champions League every single season. I demand we win a cup. Not because I'm stupid, because that is the standards that we need to keep. Those are the standards, and I'm not just talking about the 90s. We're talking about the Busby Babes. We're talking about standards that are set at this club, which you need to adhere to. Sadly, the reflection, the position that we're under these owners right now is 10 acceptable? It's not acceptable. I think your question is more so asking, should Amorin be sacked if we finish 10th? My answer to that is this. has Amorin realistically been given the tools that he's able to do to compete for the top 3 or for top 6? Some could argue yes, some can argue no. I think it's a little bit of an unknown. I think you can fall either side of the coin. I think you can say the manager's had £200 million spent on him. The squad is worth X amount of money. He should be doing it. Some of you could argue, actually, no, and I will include myself in this. You've got a team that finished 15th last season. We've invested, I think, in the wrong positions. Amorin didn't get his first choice. We are riddled with the same team. We're playing people out of position. I think if Amorin gets anything between 4th and 6th, he's overachieved this season. So look, I think at this point it really does depend. But as we all know, Sir Jim, the delusional, hypocritical Sir Jim, thinks that this side can get into the Champions League, and that is what Amorin sadly is going to be yardsticked against. What can we do? There's not a lot, my friend. Right now there is not a lot. Harif says, how long can we hold on to history for in the present? It won't be that long. I would expect us to get eroded over the next 5 to 10 years. At the end of the day, United are a brand, right? The United brand will remain. When you think about English teams, you always think about United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, right? As a mainstayer and as a brand, I think we'll always be there. But in terms of the playing squad, I think you're right. I think historically we're already seeing the impact now of the underachievement is that we're not getting these players. Like Semenyo, whether we wanted Semenyo or not, I never thought Semenyo, and I just need to prefix this with, I never thought Semenyo was going to be here. With the positions that we signed, I didn't necessarily want Semenyo because I think we need to strengthen up in different parts. Doesn't matter. When there's an opportunity to go and sign one of the best players in the league for a good price, you should be in that race. We were never in that race. Big up JB, says Danny. Danny, hope you're doing extremely well and legend of the channel. So I think we are now starting to see the repercussions of our last 13 years. John McQueen says, as long as we finish in the top 10, remember we finished 16th last season and we're awful. And that is it, John. That is exactly it. It is people's expectation. People's expectation, John. And I think you are absolutely spot on. Ryan says, I think 4th or 5th is achievable. And Ryan, I don't disagree with you either, right? So we've got two contrasting points here, right? Is you've got John who's saying that we attend from 16th is a good, and I do agree with that. I do. I've predicted from 8th to 10th, and I will come back on that as well. And Ryan's saying I think 4th or 5th is achievable. I agree with you, but we have to sign players. 4th or 5th is not achievable with this current squad. I will be astounded. I'll be astounded if this current squad is able to get 4th or 5th. Look, whether I predicted 8 to 10, right? If I'm wrong, fantastic. In this situation, I do not mind being wrong. Okay, but I have to go with the things that I see, the players, Amorin, everything that goes on off of the pitch, and how we've played. I think if we invest and we sign players, but I don't disagree. I think the aim should be 3rd, 4th, 5th. But I don't know if we've got that squad. And that is the problem. And this is what I'm so forceful in the fact that I believe that we need to sign players. I think without players, I think we miss out on 4th, 5th, and then I think we drop down to 6th, 7th. So wherever the Conference League is. So look, let's see, because I do look. But again, to go back with the way we were last season, if we finish 10th, look, the problem for me is this, right? As fans, I almost feel like we reset from game to game. And what I mean is that we could lose 7-0 in the previous game, right? And then we reset and go, we should be able to win the next game 6-0. Like we don't go back and we don't go, you look at since the Toffees game, right? We lost 1-0. West Ham draw. Bournemouth 4-4. The Geordies, right? We beat them 1-0. We were absolutely terrible, absolutely disgusting, and yet we think that we're gonna we think that we're gonna win the next game. Adam FC, there's every United fan on YouTube is so whingy. It's just like the Go Bridge disease. Adam, if you don't like it, I don't mind the banter. Absolutely no issue with the banter. No one's moaning, mate. If you don't like the truth, there are plenty of channels that you can go and see that will give you rainbows, sunshines. We'll be licking the players' butts after the 1-0 win, after the lucky 1-0 win. I'm not arguing it's a needed 3 points, but we are talking Champions League. People are talking 3rd, 4th, 5th. If you don't want to be part of the conversation and offer something in a debatable point, and if all you want to do is come on here and criticize this channel, Adam, fuck off, because I've got no time, 0 time. Adam, if you don't like it, piss off. It is as simple as that. I've got no time. For people who want to come on to a community. This is a community of people. If there's someone that you don't want to be, see you later. Right, so do you believe that Amorin will be the guy long term? It's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's such a difficult thing to quantify. I'll give you my view. I want Amorin to be the guy that resets the culture. I want Amorin to be the long-term guy. I do. But it's very, very dependent on these players. It's very, very dependent on these inconsistent, low IQ, light switch players that will turn it on and off. It's very, very difficult to project consistency when you've got inconsistent tools. So you've got a coach who's trying to do a consistent job, but when the tools that you use are inconsistent, it's very, very difficult to predict anything. Look, I truly believe if you give Amorin the tools, give Amorin the time, he can do something. But even I have to admit, and look, I will go through the conference, even I have to admit there are cracks starting to show, and there are things that he says that I simply do not believe. There are things that he says that I cannot get behind, and I worried about how what I'm questioning right now is Amorin the manager that I need him to be? Is Amorin the guy? Is Amorin the manager that this club needs? John says, By the way, thoughts on Collier coming back and being integrated into the first team? If that's the case, we will get a midfielder in this window. Look, I'd be happy with it. We need, John, we need anything. We need depth. Mainoo, I don't believe that Mainoo now will go. I think he'll stay. I think we need another one in there. I would be happy. Collier, look, I watched Collier. I watched the pre-season games. I watched the pre-season tour. I wasn't, whether or not Collier necessarily got a fair crack of the whip, I don't know. From the games that I saw, I wasn't that impressed. It is pre-season. Amorin clearly had a plan in mind. Bring Collier back. Like, what is the worst that can happen? Is that United's plan? Is it they're not going to sign people? They're going to limp on through the season. But look, if they want to bring Collier back, bring him back, because by all accounts he's doing some really good stuff. I've got no problem in bringing him back. Nicaragua says, "Evening, my friend. Hope well. Nicaragua, legend, my friend. I hope you're doing extremely well, buddy." Oh, my throat today is really, really dry. I'm going to call you yeah, I can't even pronounce that. iWhip says hi, hello. Yeah, I'm glad you've taken him out. Yeah. Ryan says, Mark Goldridge is an egomaniac who degrades his chat when they disagree with him, calling them low IQ and having low football knowledge. I don't like that. I feel it's bullying. Look, Ryan, mate, the one thing I'll always try to do on here, which I don't think people get if they don't watch the channel. This is why this channel, this is why these shows take so long, Ryan, is because I give you a platform. As long as I possibly can, I will give you guys your time, right? And just because we don't agree, Ryan, and I'm not saying us, I'm just saying that if we as a collective on here don't agree, obviously depending on if people are being rude or not, we don't mind the banter. It doesn't matter, because it doesn't mean that my opinion is better than yours. You guys got to have your opinions, right? I don't care if you're Amorin in, Amorin out, whether you are a Glazer fan or whether you're not. This is for debate. And if I do comment on your comments, it's not because I disrespect the comment. It's basic. And if you ask me a question, I will answer the question. But it's because if you start off a debate and you start off something, I think those are the best sorts of questions. Dennis says, likes appreciated. Yeah, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Amorin is still the manager for me. I still want him to get his desired plays before I properly give him a judge. The only statue Goldridge will get is the one he puts up of himself in his living room. Skinny Bob says, can we not fall into the same bottom squad of blaming the manager season after season while we keep the same squad base, get Twats out and keep the manager? Look, Skinny Bob, I agree with you. I don't like these players. I can't stand these players, and I will keep on with that consistency. One thing that you will learn about me is I try and be as consistent as I possibly can. I don't amend my mind quickly. But as much as I like Amorin, I still need to call some stuff out. The press conference today is one of those times where I feel like I need to call certain parts of it out, and we will go through that as well. Collier's problem is he can't stay fit. Also, sorry, I didn't mean to bring Goldridge up. Look, Ryan, don't need to. Look, this is your channel, right? You don't need to apologise. Look, we don't. I don't shy away from talking about stuff, right? Sometimes maybe I shouldn't, right? But fuck it. I think channels need to be open. I think channels need to be accountable. I wouldn't have a care in the world if another channel called me out and criticised me for some of the things that I potentially did wrong. Don't care. Mate, you mention whatever you like, my friend. What's Adam doing? Oh, is that guy? Is it? Amorin's press conference is boring as hell. Watch paint dry is more entertaining. So look, I wanted to get onto that. So let's get onto it. I'll get through the first part because it's fine, and then some of the parts after I think are embarrassing. And to be clear, I am Amorin in. I am the manager in, but I have to call this stuff out because there are things that concern me. But look, you give me your opinion on it. So, Amorin was basically said, do you expect any players back for the game? Amorin then said, no, I don't know. Mace is going to be out for the game. I don't think Kobie Mainoo is going to be ready. Bruno is not going to be ready. Matthijs de Ligt is out, and Harry is not going to be ready either. So look, we're going to have Mason Mount, and we can come on to that chat as well. Mainoo, Bruno, de Ligt, Harry, and Mason Mount. Now, Mason Mount for me, look, I've been saying this for the longest time as well, and I want to know your opinions on Mason Mount. Is this? I feel so sorry for Mason Mount. I absolutely, when I see him play, you can see that there's a player there who is trying his hardest, but at the same time knows he's going to get injured. He's injured again. I don't know if this is 5th or 6th injury of the season. Mason Mount is done. I don't class Mason Mount as a player. I always look at Mason Mount. I think you are a tackle away from being out. I do not class Mason Mount as a player. I like the kid. I think it's absolutely horrific. I hope in the future medical science can be like a Luke Shaw and do the impossible and fix Mount. But I think as a team, when Mason Mount plays, great. But I think we need to park him to the side. I think we all almost need to class Luke. We almost need to class Mason Mount as like maybe as if he's like half a player, right? I think you need a player. You've got Mason Mount to the side. You know he can play the sort of odd game, but you can't class him as a player. You have to buy a player to replace Mount. Look, that is on the old footballing side. That is on them. But we cannot rely on Mason Mount as a player. So look, I think it's sad he's out again. I don't know how long he's out for. Mason Mount is going to be our problem for the next 2 or 3 years. I really, really hope we don't give him a new deal. If there's a way out for Mason Mount, I would do it. It's a shame. I really, really like Mason Mount, but I think his time has gone. He then said, it was then asked, would you expect them possibly for the Leeds game, anything back, or is that what you expect? Bruno was already saying that he needs to train. This is Amorin. Bruno has already been saying he needs to train, but I don't know. We don't know about Casemiro is going to start on the pitch as well. So we will see. Matthijs is struggling a bit. I read the same thing. I don't expect the players back for the game, so he doesn't know. So basically, what he's trying to say there is that he's not expecting these players back for the next 2 games. Bruno could be back for the next Leeds game. I don't know in your minds whether that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know. Look, Bruno Fernandez in this team, like, there is no doubt. Look, Bruno Fernandez has been our best player. I do have my opinions on him, very, 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 very strong opinions on him. But look, those need to be parked for now because we've got games that we need to win. And I'd rather have a player like him, whether or not he is a disruptive player in this team, but I would much prefer to have him than not, considering we are missing players. So it's really important that we have him in this team because we are quite light in this team. Let me go through some of the chat. Skinny Boss says, I think it comes off as boring because he doesn't bite on 90% of the media bait. Exactly, Skinny Bob. And Skinny Bob, I like that. One thing I like about him that he does, I think he does it extremely well, is he doesn't give them what they want. That is a quality about him that I do like. And the media keep on trying to go for him, but he doesn't. But so look, in terms of that, I think Amorin is a smooth operator. I think he's very good. I do think he is prone to the odd outburst. If you saw after the last game, he was talking about he played a 4-4, a 4-3-3, blah 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 blah. So I do think he is prone, but I do think that you're right. Nicholas says, I really like Mount, but it's a shame he can't stay fit. We need another player like Owen Mata, who is outstanding. I agree. I really rate Mount, but his lack of availability isn't good. For the long term, you can't rely on him to stay fit for 30 plus games. Mount is better off coming on a sub as an impact player than to start him. Agreed completely. So, next part of this is on basically on Wolves, basically saying, asked about Wolves, saying that the results have not been great, but he basically then went on to say, look, they showed against Arsenal that they could have got at least a point. In the Premier League, you just don't know, but they do have their problems, which we all know that they do because we played against them. 2 points. Look, there were stages of that Wolves game away that were concerning to me. I fully expect us to win this game, but look, Wolves have improved. Let's be clear on this. Wolves were probably not going to be the same Wolves that we played. I fully expect us to win this game, but I don't think that, particularly with this team, that we can't take it for granted. It was then said, mentioned Bruno. I know he's very persuasive. There's no chances, no twisted chances that he can play. Amorin said there is no chance he is going to play. You can 100% write that down. Bruno Fernandez is not going to play. So he's out. He was then asked, Ruben, on recruitment, you've mentioned in the past you've made mistakes in the previous years. It's been a long-term problem. It feels like this year recruitment has been good. We've seen you spoke about Aiden, Dorgu. You've had a good game tonight. All the players in the summer feel like they're contributing and improving the team. Now, one thing I wanted to say about that, look, do I think recruitment has been better? Let's break this down and you can give me your opinions on this. Dorgu was a cheap prospect player that was brought in on the basis that we needed a player, and the club basically brought him in an unproven player. Aiden Heaven, again, I do have to say, look, I would be the first to maybe criticize that and call it luck, but at what point do you go, actually, those scouts got that one right? So I can't call that one luck. Aiden Heaven, whoever identified that player for that price, give yourself a pat on the back. That is where I think the recruitment and the eye for talent and youth, whoever did that deal, brilliant deal. So 100% on that. Dorgu, the jury's out. Look, he's a prospect player, a young player. He gets criticised, rightly so at times. Now, Shesko, as much as I like him, I really, really do like Shesko. 70 million, 60, 68 or 67 and extras on top. Let's not pretend here. He's Amorin's third, fourth choice. So when we're talking about recruitment and these reporters are talking about it, was it good? I don't think it was. The two number 10s that we got, Brentford pulled our pants down. we spent all of the summer arguing over a price just to pay them the money. Now, whether or not he's a good player, Brian is a fantastic player. Cunha fits and starts as Cunha had the impact that I wanted him to have. Not necessarily. So, when we're talking about recruitment has been good, recruitment's been fine. Pre-season, we pretty much didn't have any pre-season players. So you can't just say recruitment in terms of the players that you've bought. What are the impact of these players? Did they have a pre-season? Did we hit the ground and did we win 3, 4, 5, 6 games? No. So I think in terms of players, I really like Šeško. I like Matthias, Brian Mbeumo. I think I like them as players. But where I think we failed in the midfield position. I think we failed in the pivot. So look, recruitment has been okay. Now, when he then basically said, tonight you had a good game, piss off. I am sorry, right? You can spin whatever you like, right? I'm positive and I'm happy that we won a game. Let's not pretend that that was a good game. And this is where the fucking delusion starts. This is where the delusional people, this is where the fan base then gets into a spin. It's because if you're watching that game, in parts of that game, we were absolutely phenomenal. I thought in parts of that game, we were brilliant. In massive chunks of that game, we were awful. Second half, we were like the away team. So the fact that somebody can sit there and say that we had a brilliant game tonight, piss off. Because I'm not having that. I'm not a negative person. I have to be a realistic person and say it. There's nothing wrong in celebrating a win and being positive about the side. I've got no issue with that at all. I cannot, in good conscience, sit here and start waxing about how this team played well. They didn't. This team didn't. This team has not played well in a very, very long time. We play well in patches. Outside of those patches, we are either ordinary or we are abjectly awful. Skinny Bob says, "Are you supporting? Who are you supporting in the AFCON?" I don't, mate. I don't support it. No, because I'm not supporting the competition. I just don't support AFCON teams. I don't support England. I'm Welsh, so I don't support England really. I don't support, So I've got no dog in the fight. So look, if I was going to be one of these YouTubers who was going to, fake support. This is why I've stopped doing the watch-alongs for other clubs. This is why I won't do watch-along for the AFCON. Because it's fake. Because it's fake. Skinny Bob says, "I don't blame you. I watched a few games. A terrible officiating." And look, I take my hat off. That there's some amazing AFCON players, but I refuse to get into I'm not that sort of person who's going to do these rival watch-alongs. I tried a couple of times, but because my heart's not in it, I can't convey to you. I couldn't convey to an audience in something that I don't believe is right. So I will happily watch the games. I do, but watch-alongs for those sorts of games for me are just like nah, because I can't be true to myself and I can't be true to the channel if I'm watching games and commenting on things that I don't really necessarily care about. So let's get on to the next bit. So he spoke about that. And then he said, and then he said, why has recruitment been right in terms of sometimes you need a little bit of luck? And he said, I think they have potential. I think they are doing this. Sometimes I have I have an idea. Jason and the board have another idea. In every decision that we make, we need to reach common ground. And that is really important because you don't need to make everything for the manager. And this is an interesting one here. It says, because if the manager can change, you need to change everything. You also need to understand that the manager understands the way of playing, and we are trying in every play that comes. We will try to, if you don't reach common ground, the play will not come. So he's basically talking about there on. He's been quite clever here. He's basically saying, look, they do input on players, but basically what he's saying there is that, look, Jason and the board talk about players, but they have to bring in players that if Amorin gets sacked and they bring in another coach, they can't change. So it tells you the strategy that they currently have is they're not necessarily going to get Amorin-centric players because of the amount of times they change the coach. And look, Amorin's right. Now, I don't blame Amorin on that bit. I think Amorin is completely right. I think he's given you an insight there into the strategy. Is he lining up the transfer window? Basically saying that, he wants some players the board don't want. And I think that's given you a little bit of an indication of what they plan to do for the window. Unless there are players who are a versatile player, Amorin isn't getting his Amorin-centric players that he needs for his system. So I think, for me, I think that was a really fascinating thing to say. Usman says, hi GB, I'll be interested to know what objectives the board set for Amorin this year, and do you think the fans would be happy with them? Well, we know Sir Jim thinks that this team can get into the Champions League. I think Amorin's objectives this year are to basically get this team into the Champions League. I think as a minimum requirement, I think European football is basically the objective this year. I don't think necessarily he's going to be judged on the Champions League. I think Champions League is a nice to have for this board, but I absolutely think European football for Amorin this year is a must. And then I don't know if it's you've got to bring X amount of youth players through and all that sort of shit. I genuinely think the objective this season is for them to get into Europe, because the Glazers want money, 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 and that is where I'm at on that one. He then basically says, he then basically went on to say about players. He said, when they're talking about players and they're looking to bring players through, he then went on to basically say, we just try to do that. We try to make an assessment about how players live, how they train, the characteristics, and I think we did well. So again, he's given you an insight there into the strategy, and we've spoken about this as well, and he's just confirming it. They're going for a player who is a type of player who can play across many positions. Also, how they live, how they train, the mentality of these players. And I think that's a bit of a hypocritical point on the basis that you've got low mentality players in this squad. You're trying to bring in players with the right mentality. And Steve says, I'm still reeling from the news that United are going to bring back George Best. He's been gone for over 20 years. Stevie, I love it, mate. That is, we love the banter, mate. It's all good. So, again, he's given you an insight. Look, it's not something that we've not heard before. Again, is Amorin setting the world on fire? No. Is Amorin saying anything special there? What Amorin is doing, and the reason why these comments for me are such a pertinent comment, are on the basis that he's telling you about the transfer window. is telling you to the side that what they're doing. He's telling you that they are looking for a versatile player. You know, Amorin is not going to get specific Amorin plays. Now, whether or not we agree with that, if this ownership want Amorin to do well, and it will go on to the next part of this as well, because I think Amorin has been told to change the system. I think in uncertain terms, I think Amorin has been told he needs to change to a 4-3-3, and I possibly think that this Football Inside have basically told him he needs to go back to a 4-3-3. But look, it's that part for me is a fascinating insight, because Amorin is basically telling you there what it is that they're trying to do. Now he goes on. Now it goes to say, Ruben, you've used formations in recent weeks, and you used different ways of playing. You've used different plays in different positions in those systems. You've used plays you haven't played for a long time. He then said, everyone seems to be on the same page in these last few matches. From your perspective, so he then went to say, everyone seems to be on the same page in these last few games. From your perspective, how satisfying is it that the coaching you've done as a team over this time seems to be having an effect on so many players in so many different ways? Now, I've got my opinion on that one, but let's see what he says first. He says it is the process, and when I came here last season, I understood that maybe I don't have the players to play well in that system, but was the beginning of the process. We're trying to build an identity. Today's different. We don't have a lot of players we need to adapt. They already know that, and they understand we are changing. We're changing. It's not because of the pressure of you, the press. It's because now we understand the way that we want to play, and the principles are the same. We can change the system, and I think we're going to become a better team, because when all the players return, we're going to play all the time. We're not going to play all the time with a back three. We're going to improve, but there was something that I was talking about. But when you talk about changing the system all of the time, I cannot change, because the players will understand that I'm changing because of you. And I think this is the end for the manager. So when we are playing well in the system, I think that the moment is to change. If it's a better thing to do in the next game, then that is what we will do. I'll come on to all that, because I've got a few things to say on that as well. I'm still, United are balls. Thanks, Paul. Up the derby tonight, Luke. Good luck for the derby tonight, my friend. Hope Derby will do extremely well. At least that made sense. Yep. At the time, Amorin was new. At the time, United plays bad because they're in inconsistency defense. So look, let's go through that bit. Basically saying, like how you got to trust the process. Now, let me go back to the question. The question is, from your perspective, how satisfying is it that the coaching you've done seems to be having an effect on so many players? Are you fucking joking me? Are you kidding me? Like, I like Amorin, right? And I'm getting fundamentally pissed off, because they're now, from the same media who were basically trying to bend him over, they're now trying to say that the tactics seem to be having an effect on the team. Let's just go back to the last couple of games. Forest 2-2, lucky to still be in that game. Spurs 2-2 because of a last minute goal. Everton, we lost at home. Palace, we beat Palace 2-1 because they dropped off in the second halves. Wolves, 2 points all season, we beat them. Bournemouth, 4-4. Villa, 2-1. Newcastle we won after being absolutely battered. Can you fucking tell me how Amorin, and this is not a dig at him by the way, how has Amorin, how has he had an impact on these players? How is it, how can Amorin be satisfied with those results from this season? And what I mean is, how can Amorin be satisfied when the majority of the games we have not played well throughout a single game from start to finish? We play well in a patch, and we rely on teams not being able to score, or a last minute winner, or a last minute draw goal. How can Amorin be happy with that? Then it goes on to say that basically when he came, it was his first season. I get that. He says, I understand that maybe I don't have the players to play well in the system, but that was the beginning of the process. We're trying to build an identity. Today is a different game. When we have a lot of players, I need to adapt. They already know and they understand that we are changing. It's not because of the pressure of you guys. It's now because we understand the way that we want to play. So basically saying that he's understood the principles. And they've understood the principles, is that now he can change. So Andrew says it could be based off the previous bad performances and focusing on the results of improvement. And Andrew, look, I get that. But Andrew, this is a systematic thing. We should be improving. We are 14 games deep now? When are we going to improve? Amorin keeps saying we're going to improve. I've not seen this improve. I've seen this improve in the patches. And again, Angela, I'm not calling out your view. That's your view, and I'm just giving you my opinion on this. Where I think that we've improved here is this: in those patches of games that we've played well, we are getting better in those patches. We're not having end-to-end games where we've been the dominant team. We've improved in patches of games. Those patches of games where we were better, we've now are brilliant in those patches. We're still not good end to end. Nick says, would you not say we've improved? I would say, in my view, I would say that we've improved in terms of those patches of games, because to me, improvement is you are better through the entire game. We were better in the first half. Now what seems to be is we are better in the first 10 minutes, slack off, and then we're better again. Second half, we capitulate. And Nicorucci says that we went from losing week in, week out to finishing 15th to this season. And look, and Nicorucci, I think probably for the first time we may disagree on this one, is that do I agree that we're playing better, and do I agree that we've improved? 100% we have improved. I think there can be no argument from me that we've improved. We have improved. But as a fan base, and as you just said there, and as we've all said on here, the hope is from 6th to 8th. Our brand of football that we play is not 6 to 8. Have we improved? Yes, we have. I think we've improved in the patches that we've played in. So let me just drink some water. We can disagree on views and still exactly, Nicorucci, mate. There is no people disagree, right? If we really are a top 4, top 6, top 8 team, what I want to see for improvement for me is, let's be good for an entire half. Let's be good for 60 minutes. Of course, there are going to be times in a game whereby the other team will have their turn, right? But we basically capitulate unless we get a red card, unless the team is tired, unless we play a team with 2 points, unless we play a team who are in the Champions League or European football and they get tired. Look, if you go through the Grimsby game, if you go through City game, the Chelsea game, where we won, but look, they had a red card. The Brentford game, we got spanked. The Forest game, the Spurs game, the Toffees, the Bournemouth game, the Villa game. We're improving to a point, but in my view, the performances are still not there. The last game we won, the Magpies at home, defensively we got absolutely hammered. And look, whilst I do agree that while there are improvements, Amorin in some respects has stopped the rot, which I agree. The next phase for me, and I do agree with you, is that the next phase for me now is to basically go, look, we start a game well, we have a good middle part of a game, and we have a good end part of the game. What I don't want to see is us clinging on to a win at the end. The Bournemouth game was end to end, but my bloody heart can't take it. The Geordies, I mean, look, if they'd have actually been able to finish their dinner, these are the games for me whereby I think that is a mark of improvement for me. So look, do I think that we've improved? I do. Do I think that improvement means that we're worthy of a top 4, top 6 placement at the moment? No. This is a very, very strange season. This is a very, very strange. The reason why I partly say these things as well is because in the past I've been a supporter of this club through thick and thin. I no longer trust these players. We are in a top, whether I like it or not, as of now, we are in a top 4, top 8 race, right? I want to see where we are in the next 4 or 5 games before I start to commit. I need to see performances. I need to see not just a 1-0 win where you're hanging on. I need to see more. Let's have a little look what we're saying. It's also not better to be playing better in the second half. Possibly less time, especially if you go down a goal or 2 in the first half, depending when they actually start playing football. Would you say FC Cologne is better than United? No. Finesse says defense always sloppy. Are you going to collaborate with other United channels? It's not up to me, mate. It's not up to me. Anybody wants to collaborate on this channel, reach out, but I don't make the rules, mate. Newcastle game really did show flaws in the team. Literally went from hero to zero come the second half. Oh my God, if it wasn't for Lamens, we could have easily been beaten 3 or 4 goals. And Nicaruzzi, this is the most frustrating thing, right? Is that in that game, what I saw was some absolute fantastic stuff. Probably So Moran says, hi. Hello, my friend. Ikaritsu, what we saw was probably the most frustrating performance that I've seen in a very long time. On the basis that in parts of that game, we were sublime. We were unplayable, right? Unplayable. In patches, we weren't, but I can accept that. We're playing a bloody good team, right? This league is super competitive. I can say this. I'm expecting us to batter teams, right? Every team is going to have their chance. But that second half was disgraceful. And I don't even blame the players for that one. I blame the coach for that. So look, you know, I think it's a good debate to have. Do we think we've improved, and at what level have we improved at? Then Amorin basically. So then Amorin. So then the question was asked. Pleasing as it is, you seem to be having a surprising effect on the lineup of the opposition, and again today, another team trying to work out what to do in the opening 10 or 15 minutes. So basically, the question is saying, is it pleasing to you that another team is trying to work out the things that you do in the first 10 to 15 minutes? What the fuck are you talking about? And what I mean is, look, the Geordies came, and yes, they did have to change and they did have to adapt, because basically they don't know whether we're going to play a back four or a back three. But let's not be over egging it here. Eddie Howe, once he'd basically, after the first 7 minutes, once he figured it out, he was fine. Amorin's been schooled by Sean Dyche. He's been schooled by Moyes. You know, let's not pretend here that we start well. We've started well in games, right? That doesn't happen in every single game. You can tell what this team is about in the first 10 to 15 minutes. And we're trying to basically say here that, is it pleasing to you that you're having an effect on the game, on the previous game? What are you talking about? Like, they adapted in the first 10 to 15 minutes. And then second half, Amorin couldn't adapt to Eddie Howe. Like, Amorin's response to Eddie Howe was, let's go and play a back six. Let's go play a back five and a back six. What is he talking about? Like, you can surprise teams as much. You can surprise a team for the first 10 to like half an hour, right? If you don't score a goal, it doesn't matter. But Amorin isn't doing that. He's not surprising teams for 30 minutes. He's surprising teams for 5 to 10 minutes, and then they fucking work you out. Amorin hasn't. I just found that question bizarre. And then Amorin to that said, today we already knew that the way they would jump into the pressure, basically talking about what we spoke about. I think that they have more physicality. If we go into a back five, they would know the players need to jump and to transfer the game to one against this team. So look, what he's basically saying there is that they thought that we were going to go to a back five, a back three, because we're so predictable. We went to back four, so therefore we went man to man, and they were surprised. Literally, it's not rocket science. Eddie Howe worked that out literally within 7 minutes. Nick Pope dropped to the floor to buy them time, and then Eddie Howe brought on instructions to the team to change the team up. That was it. So why are these reporters, I don't know if these reporters are literally taking the piss or have been told to basically stop the old questions, because these questions, for me, the way that this media on site has now changed up their questions, I think that they've been told, if you don't ask more positive questions, you're out. So I just find that question really peculiar, because Eddie Howe worked him out really, really quickly. So I just don't know. And then basically, this is my problem. This is my main bit here, and you can give me your opinions. I will go through the comments, and this is why I think Amorin here needs to. It concerns me. This just really concerns me the most. Nick says, can we rewind and go over how incredible Dorgu's first goal was? I think that goal was incredible. One of the things I liked about that goal in particular was the fact that he's been, and correctly so, in some respects, he's not been great. And what is your response? Your response is to go and score an incredible goal. I'm so pleased for him. What a fantastic goal. Confidence-wise, I think is what he needs. And he scored it when we were playing a 4-3-3. I thought Dorgu, for me, was the man of the match. I thought Dorgu was absolutely fantastic. And I'm so ecstatic for him that he scored that goal. And I just hope now that we can play positionally that suits him, because I do think he's good. Ray says, Amorin isn't the answer. He isn't the future. He isn't bringing the success back to the club. I don't agree with that statement. Even though I will critique Amorin and I will call him out on this sort of stuff, I still believe that Amorin is still the guy. But I will not blindly support this team. I will not blindly support these players. I will not blindly support a manager. I still can't stand these players. I'm still not the biggest fan of these players. I still would pretty much sell with most of these players. But also, Amorin needs to take some responsibility as well. Amorin is a full guy for the board. I don't disagree with that. The Shesko signing was very peculiar. They overpaid for an unproven young striker in Shesko, and they just forced out an unproven young striker in Haaland. They overpaid for. And look, I'm not going to disagree with that. That's your view. I can't remember exactly what I said at the time, but I think I think this. The reason why Haaland needed to go, because he basically had PTSD, right? Haaland had to go because he was so tainted in this club. He needed to go. Now the jury is out on a Shesko. I do agree with you. I do agree. It was a very peculiar. I get it in terms of I understand why they bought him. I think he's going to be fine. It is peculiar why they went like for like. I think United should be concerned, but I don't know if he should be sacked. Cunha, I think I would make De Ligt the captain. Dorgu's still very raw player, but so far he's been good, not brilliant. He's a proper hard worker within the team and shown improvement. Cunha is my opinion. Cunha, in my opinion, was a bad signing, says Andrew. I think Cunha was the right signing to do. No, I mean a fantasy player. I think Cunha, on the face of it, was a good signing. The bit that I don't get is you've got three players fighting for the same position, except Bruno Fernandez is now the number 8 and not one of the 10s. I don't think Cunha is a bad signing. With the 2 players that we bought in the number 10s with Cunha, with Matthias and Brian in there, I don't know. I get why you'd want 3 or 4 10s, but you've almost got 3 starting 10s. And I think at the moment, I think Cunha is probably the one that looks more out of place. Now, I should tell you for why Cunha would make sense and where it's fine. If we get into the Champions League or European competition, we are going to need him. So I think when you've got 1 Premier League game a week, that's when you start to think, well, actually, should we have signed him? I think he's a great signing. I like him a lot, but I think to make this whole thing work, unless Bruno Fernandez leaves, I think we're going to need more than 1 game a week, and that is when you start seeing the value of a Cunha playing in there as well. So yeah, so look, the pressure of as a question, I just thought that was absolutely crazy. So look, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the crux of the thumbnail. I'll give you my opinion. You give me yours, and we can talk about it. So look, it was asked. You mentioned about Fernandez previously. You've talked and spoke about him as a leader. He's invested in the team. How important he is now, even though he's not playing. Speaking to the players, whatever you're telling him to do. He's saying that he cannot be the guy that doesn't stand there and not talk when he's not playing. He is talking and speaking. He's always speaking. That's why he is the captain, and he has bad things to say sometimes, the way that he moves his arms, but he has a lot of good things to say. He's always leaving the game and the practice every time. Every time he makes a recovery from the game, he's the guy that's going to watch the other guys to train. So there's a lot of things you guys that you don't see. He's a great leader. When he plays, he's there all of the time. He's the guy that's watching the trends even after the treatment is going there. I don't know if he wants my job, but he is a leader. The guy is a leader. You've got to watch it. You know, Amorin. The scary thing for me, I disagree with Amorin. Bruno Fernandez is not a leader. Just because you walk around a facility, you walk around a football club, and you talk to people, you give people like a high five. You know, I've got no doubt that behind the scenes, Bruno is a very well liked and a very, very good person for that. People can be very, very good to have around. You get many people in life, and I've worked with these sorts of people who are very good at being around people. They're very, very supportive. They are very, very good at getting the best out of people with being a positive figure. Grace has become a United Super Devil member. Grace, legend, and I know that you were a legend before, and you sort of are now. Absolute legend, Grace, and thank you for the Grace. Thank you for the continued support. It really means a lot to me, and you are a legend. So give Grace some love. These sorts of people are very, very good. Wait, I'm on a Super Devil tag too. Well, Nikarutsu, you know what you need to do, buddy. You are Grace. You are the legend. There are many people who walk around. And look, as Amorin says there, he stays behind watching games. He encourages people. He's always talking, right? Um, um, but Bruno Fernandez, Amorin is wrong. Bruno Fernandez, just because he walks around the club giving people high fives, talking to people, watching the games, he's not a fucking leader. Amorin, you are so wrong on this. You are so wrong. Amorin, Bruno Fernandez, you are getting it confused. What I think, and this is what really disturbs me, is that when you watch him talk about him, I think Amorin is in awe. Nikaruchi, thank you, my friend. He is a super devil. Look, guys, absolute legendary. I can't thank you guys enough for becoming members, which you guys are legends anyway. Massive supporter of the channels as well. So, guys, I can only thank you. Absolute legends. You guys are fantastic. Amorin is wrong on this one. I will stand as Amorin will die on his hill. I will die on my hill. Amorin has put all his eggs in the basket. Amorin's put all his eggs in the Fernandez person, right? He's not going to come out of it. Bruno Fernandez, he may walk around smiley, happy. Look, if I was getting paid 300k a week, right, I would be giving people high fives. I'd be watching the training. Look, if you were earning 300k a week, why would you not be happy every single fucking day? If you were earning that amount of money, why would you not be? People seem to think Bruno Fernandez walking around happy is like a sign of this guy's an amazing guy. The guy gets paid 300k a week. No wonder he's walking around happy. He's probably walking around with a boner. He's probably walking around with the biggest smile and biggest boner you've ever seen, because he's getting paid 300k. If Bruno wasn't getting paid 300k a week, he would not be walking around this club chatting to people, saying hi. The guy's getting paid to do it. It baffles me. Amorin baffles me. Like, this guy's walking around, he's getting paid 300k a week. He's not doing it for free. And Amorin is in my view, is absolutely confused. The fact that Amorin is putting this guy on a pedestal for this entire team, for this entire club, baffles me. Because the fact that you've got, and this is quite clear for me, Bruno Fernandez and Amorin are basically the same person. Ruben Amorin should be the top guy. Bruno Fernandez should be underneath him and listening to what he says. Ruben is in awe of Fernandez. And it absolutely is staggering to me. This, for me, is part of the problem. We've been used to being a club who have leaders across the pitch. We had Roy Keane. If you listen to stories of Keane, Keane was an absolute... Keane didn't give a shit. Keane didn't care about players. Towards the end, he didn't care about the boss. At that point, he went. Ferguson kicked him out. But he was a leader. This whole team knew the manager was the boss. And then you had your leaders. Bruno Fernandez is not a fucking leader. Just because you walk around, Ruben, and I'll go through it again. Just because he goes around, whatever that page is now, just because he walks around giving people high fives just because he walks around talking to people. He wants your job. Ruben, mate, I will support you. Some of the things that you say I do not agree with. Right? But I will support you because you're a coach. But this obsession with Bruno is delusional. I don't care. It is, you are putting all your eggs in the basket and coming out supporting this player in the way that you do is going to cost you. So look, I worry about Amorin. I do. Look, I will be doing a watch along tomorrow. I do think that we will win tomorrow. There is no excuse not to win tomorrow. We went away to them. We beat them 4-1. We are going to have a different Wolves, but I expect the result to be similar-ish. I expect us to win. I expect us to go out there tomorrow, and I do expect us to go win. So, and I think you guys are right as well. You know, if you look at the leadership group, and again, as you sparked that off as well, you know, not only is Amorin, I think, is very naive in terms of the Bruno Fernandez side of it. The leadership group, like the people in that group, like it concerns me. It really concerns me. But look, we've got a game tomorrow. Are we doing a watch along for that tomorrow? Who knows? I'm expecting a win tomorrow. There is absolutely no excuses for us not to win tomorrow. If we don't win tomorrow, and again, I'm going to be consistent on this. I'm consistent. I don't trust these players. I expect us to win tomorrow, but I do not trust these players. So look, I don't think tomorrow is a foregone conclusion. I still think that we cannot go into these games in a confident manner. I still think that we will win. But let's see. Let me go through the chats before I go. A true leader leads by their actions and not necessarily by their words, says Liam. Hopefully Scott has left this channel. Delo is our best captain of the last 25 years, says Grace. We need different badges for Super Devil so we know who are the legends and who are the frauds. I think Bruno should go and they should find a solid veteran as 10. He's not a leader. Look at him when things don't go his way. Like Fulham and Brentford, he plays 90 minutes despite not playing well. The moment Bruno leaves, we will be free and we missed the £100 million bid. You can have the low pick then, Grace. I'm sure there won't be too much fight for him since JB would take Shaw. Ooh. I think about the money they pay for Bruno to sign someone else. Do you do... I haven't done it this season, but I think next season what I'll do is I'll do one for the channel. JB would take the Bruno pick, the way he speaks about him. Adding Delo into the leadership circle just tells you where the club is. And the manager may just go 3-4-3 to prove a point, then play dead football for the 90 minutes and escape with 3 points, just like he did with Geordies. Just stick the captaincy on Delo tomorrow just for the win and win it for Grace. Scathing summary of Fernandez. Look, it's look. The problem here is this, right? Is Bruno Fernandez is a fantastic player, right? There is zero doubt Bruno Fernandez is and has been a fantastic player. But he's not a fantastic captain. And look, Pete, look, that is just my opinion. Doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just my view. And look, I've got no problems in accepting that Bruno is a fantastic player. Bruno can still do some world-class things. But I personally just cannot accept that Bruno Fernandez is a United captain. He is not. He is not. He is just not the captain. He doesn't do the simple things right. His mentality isn't right. He doesn't lead by example. You know, there are games that I've seen where he's pulled out of 50-50 tackles. He doesn't roll this team up. Just because you score a goal, then you go over to the crowd and start screaming. That's not lifting up your team. He can't inspire a team. He doesn't. Just because you shout and talk and you stick your fucking arms in the air, that's not a captain. And look, I absolutely agree that he is a fantastic player, but he's not a captain, and therefore the only way to remove the captaincy is to remove the player. And the Primer, I think you are absolutely spot on. I think you are absolutely right. If you take the captaincy away from him, no issue from me. The problem is when you stick a crown on a person and you call them a king, it's something different. The moment you put a captaincy on any one of those players, you look at them in a different way. And that, for me, is probably the issue for me, is that if you take the captaincy away, my mindset will completely change. It will still irritate the fuck out of me, but if he's just another player in that squad as a number 10, fine. But the issue is that the problem is the captaincy here is not just a player. And that, for me, is, I don't think that people get that. The captain of this club is not just a player. The captain here is not the same as the captain of a Chelsea, an Arsenal, Brighton. The captain here is more than that. And Bruno Fernandez is not up to that captaincy. If you want to take it off of him, and Bruno Fernandez wants to stay and not be the captain, fine. I've got no issue with that. But the only way you take the captaincy off of him is if he leaves. And that's my reason why I want him to leave. As fantastic as he is, with or without him, we seem to be pulling results with him. And some of our best players are at the AFCON. I mean, like, I'm an MLS fan of New York Red Bulls, and signing veterans and playing them with some youngsters has worked well, says Andrew. I think JB needs a 2026 Bruno calendar. Captaincy takes away from his freedom of play. I do agree with you. Please add images of different trophies. I Nick Arucci, that is a very good suggestion, and that is something that I will do. So I will update the pictures. I just need to find time, but I think that's a good. So look, guys, I should be back this evening. I'm not going to promise I'm back this evening. I can't remember if I've got anything on this evening, but I might be back this evening. I will be doing a watch along tomorrow night. But look, guys, thank you for being here. That was the presser today. One of those pressers today that absolutely bugged me. I don't know if you can tell that. Grace says we're signing Frankie de Jong. Look, guys, absolute legends. Like, we don't always have to agree, which I think is probably the best. Like, if everybody agreed, it would be boring as shit, and this show would be absolutely shite. Some people do think they're so shit, but that's fine. But look, you guys are legends. Thank you for the support. As always, I love these shows. I love reading out comments. You guys are fantastic. Look, I will be hopefully back this evening. I will aim to do a show this evening where, again, I'll bring in something into the show and we can talk about some stuff. So look, guys, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Take care. You guys are fantastic, and I will hopefully see you guys tonight. So take care, and I'll see you very, very soon.